A very good evening to one and all present here. I'm Meenakshi Tomar, faculty at Jindal Global Business School, OP Jindal Global University. Take huge pleasure in welcoming you all to the 7th Masterclass on Consulting and Business Analytics, Unveiling Opportunities. It is a pleasure for us to have Mr. Anshuman Bhattacharya, founder and CEO at CBR Analytics and Consulting Services, speak. Before I move forward, let me take this opportunity to briefly introduce our speaker for today. He is an entrepreneur and professional in the area of data science and machine learning with about 2 decades of success. He has deep experience in consulting and providing solutions to Fortune 500 and top Indian and epic enterprises. A pioneer in the machine learning solutions for SMEs across the world, Mr. Anshuman has built solutions and large delivery teams across organizations as entrepreneur and intrapreneur. Mr. Anshuman, we wholeheartedly welcome you to this session. And I'm sure that the audience who are live with us on the YouTube are going to gain immensely, as I personally look forward to this session with you. So to begin with, I would request you to shed some light on your own journey and your own involvement in this sector.
Sure, Professor. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I have, as you said, about 2 decades of experience, and a brief, precisely, I joined this sector in late 2003 for one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And during that time, we started that was a brief stint, but after that I moved to one of the largest analytics companies or data and analytics companies in US, who works in the retail and the CPG or the consumer goods sector, and have worked for them for quite a long time. My job started as as a modeler, statistician or econometrician to start with. As my background, I mean, I studied econometrics and worked towards a PhD in econometrics before coming to this field. Then I evolved from there. I evolved towards moved towards R&D and was part of a lot of product development in that company. And I was stationed in US during that time. And after that, we also worked on a number of solutions that we have built for top 10 or top 20 CPG companies in the world. Now that was a great experience. And after that, I came back to India, worked for the same company for some time. But as it happens that I moved to typical IT services companies during during 2008. Now that is quite interesting because during 2008, none of the top IT companies, the top 4 or top 5 as we call them today, has really any analytics practice. They were getting into that. Before that, what happened is that all the analytics companies was either the captive of the large banks like Citibank and HSBC, etc., or they are standalone analytics companies. Like we call them pure play or the boutique analytics companies. But IT companies also understood this opportunity and tried to grab it. And I was fortunate enough to move the top part of the M&A team and the post merger, the synergy team. I was there and built that team inside that company. After that, in 2009, I moved to Wipro, and in Wipro, it was a fascinating journey because the Wipro again started. I was one of the few early members and only the senior member during that time, and we started building the analytics practice. I was responsible here for building in India, building the analytics center of excellence, which was located in Kolkata. And with the help of and the guidance of the senior management in Wipro, we created about a 200 member analytics team in next 2 years time. So that was a fascinating journey for us, for me. And along with that, like, I was also given an opportunity to build solutions for the emerging markets or the SMBs. As it happened, if you think of those days, I mean, the or prior to 2010 days, analytics as a subject or as a practice was only used by the top enterprises. The top banks, the top insurance companies, the top retail companies, etc., only used to use analytics. The mid-sized companies or even companies in India, say emerging market like India, they did not really use the analytics. So that was quite a challenge for us. Of course, there are certain entry barriers for a small company or small enterprise to adopt analytics, but that challenge was given to me, and I could create a solution, more of a delivery model through which we are able to successfully deliver some of the projects to the Indian companies. And you can think of like some of the Indian companies doing analytics in 2000 fortunate journey. Need not be always consumed or built or used by only the top enterprises. There could be different delivery models where you can actually break those entry barriers. And three technological breakthrough that came during that time was very helpful. Number one, the cloud computing came up. You know that when you work in analytics, we not only handle a lot of very big data, but we also need to do statistical operations, and every statistical operations would require creating a matrix uh, of the data set. So you can imagine that the computing requirements was huge. So that was one of the reason why a small or mid-sized company cannot start analytics or cannot adopt analytics. Cloud computing gave us that option where you can, without investing a lot in hardwares or incurring a capital expenditure, you can start a compute. You can get the benefit of large scale computing. So that was one breakthrough. The second breakthrough was that till date, analytics software was dominated only by the commercial products, and they were prohibitively expensive. Uh, Even today, those are commercial softwares are prohibitively expensive. But it so happened that some of the open source software came, like R and sometime later Python. These two language when it came, and which are open source in nature, so that entry barrier was demolished. Of course, initially there was a lot of challenge of using R for those statistical operations or any analytics process for that matter. But by now, after some time, a few years, these things are matured. So at least that starting we can get. And the third breakthrough was the data ecosystem. It was imperative that some data management tool, which is not really expensive, should be available to make the analytics productive. So big data technology came, and we could adopt that, and it made life a lot more easy for the analysis. So now these three technology breakthroughs was very important during this 2010 to 12 period, where it could help a lot of small and medium businesses, emerging market companies to adopt analytics. Now, based on that, or banking on this idea, in 2014, I left my corporate job and started this company, the CBI Analytics. And the idea was that using these three technologies and going to the Indian market or the emerging market clients and providing them the analytics solution so that they can get or reap the benefit of their enterprise data. So that was the, you can say, turning point in my career. And then I started this company in 2014. The company came into kind of started operations in 2015, and in the last 6-7 years we have scaled some heights, and right now we work with about 10 to 12 top Indian enterprises uh, and provide them our services. Yeah, so that has been my journey, more or less.
I must put my words straight away. It has been a challenging journey, but it has been really a very motivating and inspiring journey, because you started off with something that was just into existence, but nobody knew about it. And I think evolving with something there, I'm sure developing people around you, developing systems around you, it must have been its own kind of experience that people can ever dream of. And you yourself over here as an individual are a success story to anybody who can think of business analytics as one dream career.
Sure.
Moving on to my next question, uh, how do you think has consultancy evolved in the area of business analytics? Because we see a lot of people talking about consulting careers, and especially professionals or early career aspirants who think of taking business analytics as a career option. When we ask them, what do you want to do? They say consulting. So, what is your take on that? How has consultancy evolved in and around business analytics?
Sure. See, consulting has been a very integral part of the ecosystem of business analytics solution delivery. Uh, as I always say, analytics is neither technology nor statistics nor business. It's a mix of all the three. So you cannot solve a problem without having any one of these in your ecosystem. So consulting has been there, and as long as business analytics or machine learning, whatever you call it, data science, consulting will always be there. Consulting role, let me see that where we see the consultants in the whole ecosystem. So first, the consultants are who are in the client side, whose job is to define the problem, understand the solution, and then use it on their own business, because the business managers who are actually consuming the analytics or whose divisions are actually consuming the analytics, they may not be technical. So they could be the sales hierarchy, the head of sales director marketing, or in a bank they could be the risk officers, credit risk or operational or fraud risk officers. So they are not technical and they have their own deliverables, but analytics is just a tool to them to achieve certain goals. So one role is played by the consultant at that part, who kind of bridge the gap between the uh, partner who is developing the analytics solution and the business who is consuming the analytics solution. The second part is just the counterpart of this, is where we see that the consultant is sitting at the analytics partner side, and they take the requirements from the business. Like say the my client business does not have a consulting partner or consulting role at their end, so the partner should have that role, who understands exactly what the client business requires and how to solve that problem, and then translate it back to the analytics technologist, and then also build the solution and take it to the customer. So this is the role. Now these two roles could be similar, not very different, whether you are part of this side or that side of the table. The third role, which is also very interesting, is that many of the time these enterprises, and I have seen all through my life when I used to work for PepsiCo in US, or while I am working for Indian companies like Exide or Imami, we see that they because analytics is not their core business and they don't want to leave it up to only the partner, they engage with the consulting firms, like either it could be the top four big five analytics consulting firms, or could be other analytics partners. So they create a tri-party agreement where the business gives the goal, the analytics partner creates the solution, and the consulting partner, they understand the solution, make sure that is useful to the business, and then also help in rolling out the solution in the business. So this is a very interesting role which is emerging out these days. I mean, it is there in US and Europe maybe 20 years back, but in India you can see this happening. Like many of our engagement, we engage with top FMCG companies or retail companies. We see that there is a analytics partner also involved, and their role is pretty uh, exciting or interesting, because from a outsider analytic partner perspective, we can only build the solution, but the analytic has to be adopted across the hierarchy of the business. So, and that requires a lot of change management, lot of rollout, lot of test and learn situations, which are nowadays handled by those companies, or by those or consulting partners. So the role has been emerging like uh, earlier it only used to be like just interpreting the statistical or econometric or any kind of modeling result to the business, but now the role has expanded a lot. They are not only involved in interpreting the result, but how to make sure that the business, across the business hierarchy, the analytics output are being adopted. They are driven by the analytics output rolling out of the uh, solution, and then managing the change, because many of the business did not use analytics earlier. Now they are being I mean the company mandate, the corporate mandate is to adopt that analytics, but then you have to drive it through so that every level, till the ground level where people are really using, they are really using that analytics solution. So this is the role that has evolved in, I would say, last 5 6 years, and has been very interesting because we interact with them pretty regularly.
Absolutely. And I can see that a lot also depends upon what kind of umbrella or basket can you give within one house. So if I read about CB Analytics, I think CB Analytics itself is giving a lot to these corporations in terms of consulting itself. And the way one has to develop that acumen is to make sure that you undergo the right set of curriculum while you are taking something in business analytics. Moving on to my next question, Mr. Anshuman, what are the different career roles that you witnessed in business analytics sector? I mean, consulting is of course one of them. How are the other roles that you've seen emerging there?
Right. So when we started our career 20 years back, uh, more or less every type of work was being done by everyone. So person who is responsible for querying the data, building the data set, the same person is building the analytics models, and the same person is also working on the reports. Maybe like some specialization here and there, but more or less everybody was required to do the same thing. But as the time progresses, and especially after the cloud has come in, and more technology got ingrained in the solutions. Like earlier at the beginning, our solutions were delivered either in form of Excel. Maybe we have been working in SAS or similar software, or using some SQL queries, any of the SQL languages to query the data and build the data set. But the final output to the business was either in Excel or in PowerPoint, and that's where it is. So I used to call them that offline analytics. But last 10 12 years, we have seen that a lot of online analytics has come in, uh, and the data has become much more complex. After the cloud has come, the data warehouses started, cloud data warehouses started coming in. The data itself is a challenge. So how to, organize data, get data from various sources across the enterprise divisions or functions, and then creating the data which is required for the analytics has been very an important role, and that has given the birth of the data engineers. So they work on this area and build the data pipelines, which is essential, very essential for any further machine learning or data science solution to be built in. So this is one. And then what happened? The rest of the people who used to build those models or data science or machine learning solutions, so they don't really need to work on those lines, but they have become more specialized into that. So over there we see roles of data science experts, and the data science experts could be someone coming from like me, coming from statistics, econometrics background, and then the focus on that. Then there are machine learning specialists. So these two, I would say, the mainstream data science people. But now more and more specialized analytics coming in. So deep learning solutions are coming in, natural language processing solutions are coming in. So this is another set of roles. I'm still not mainstream, but I would say if you look at any random 100 data science experts, you would probably find 10 to 15 who are working in deep learning or NLP or similar solutions. So those roles are coming up. Then a very interesting role is coming up, and in last few years, a lot of people have created their career in this, what we call the data visualization. So after, you build a model or do not build a model, still the data can tell a lot of story.
Mhm.
And that story, given the business, the way business happens, the way things move fast, you cannot just have like create a report and the report delivered on an Excel or PowerPoint or PDF and can be consumed in next 7 days or 15 days. That does not happen. The business need to know what happened 10 minutes back. So this real-time data reporting solutions are required, and that's why the real-time data visualization dashboards uh, solutions are also important. So that gave birth of a breed of people whom we call the data visualizers. So they work on different softwares. They work in tandem with the data engineers. Some of those people are them. They themselves can develop as data engineers. But that data visualization, showing the output on a real time or almost on a real time manner in a nice and well designed dashboards are their job. So we see these kind of roles apart from the typical consultants in this field.
Thank you for answering that. While I was going through career roles and some of them, as you just mentioned, there are some terms, some career roles that look to be almost similar. So then we ask people, what is the difference? We are barely able to see any sort of difference. For example, if I talk about data engineer or data scientist, now to somebody, they might look absolutely same. So, what is the difference between these two roles itself, a data engineer and a data scientist?
Uh, right. So the data engineer, as I said, they are responsible for assembling data from various sources. And this is a very specialized role because these days data coming from various sources, the nature of data can be very different. Could be structured data, could be unstructured data. Data could be numeric, could be text, could be audio, could be video, could be images. So all these data to bring into a common platform for further analysis, it's a very specialized job. So and people normally use SQL queries are the most important, but there are different tools. We call them the ETL tools or the pipeline tools they work with. That is important. Or sometimes they write their own programs for that. I mean, Python has been a very popular uh, programming language for this. So this is one aspect where the data engineers work. On the other hand, the data scientists work more uh, towards building the models, statistical or econometric models or machine learning models, and getting the insights from there. It does not mean that they will not work on the data pipeline and kind of they will be served the data on their plate. That does not happen, but they also have to do some amount of data gathering, data engineering process, but their focus is more on building the uh, statistical or econometric or machine learning models, so algorithms as we call it. uh, in our times when I was a developer, I used to call it models. Now everybody call it algorithm, but there is no difference. So these are the difference between the uh, two roles. But I would say these I cannot see or tell them there's a hard differentiating line, because a data engineer should also be able to develop some preliminary models, preliminary analysis, and that's how he would scale in his career. And a data scientist at the same time also cannot expect that the data will be served to him in a plate. He also should be able to work with the raw data and create the data mart or data model for his analysis. Now, even after that, the data engineers also work directly with the data visualization experts or data visualizers. When a data visualization or reporting or a dashboarding happening, it is important that you get data from various sources, create a common platform for all the data or the level playing field for all the data, uh, and that requires a very good amount of data engineering skills. So you can say that they also are part of a data visualization project. And sometime, and in my experience, I have seen that the data engineers themselves can actually develop as a data visualizer. So these are the two career paths, you can say. Normally, someone who is coming as a data scientist, they would have uh, educational background or theoretical background in statistics or econometrics or machine learning, like they would study computer science or any of these subjects. Data engineers are not necessarily have this knowledge, but any data engineer who wants to ask or who aspires to become a data scientist, they have to learn these theoretical aspects uh, of the solutions.
Thank you so much for this wonderful and insightful explanation, Mr. Anshuman. Believe me, before this, even I was not clear with the distinction between both the roles. And thank you so much for telling us how theoretical aspects also play a very vital role, which precisely highlights the structuring of the curriculum that needs to be delivered for somebody who's aspiring for data scientist versus somebody who aspires to be a data engineer. And yes, opportunities definitely come to those who keep on learning, who keep on upgrading themselves in terms of education, in terms of technical skills, etc.
Yes.
Coming on to the skills part, what are some of the must-have skills for consulting roles as for you?
Yeah, very important. So I feel that the most important skill for a consultant would be his understanding of the business. So which whatever business you are part, I mean, every business has their own nuances. So if you are in a bank and you are part of a risk management program, credit risk management program, you really need to understand how credit risk works, or credit risk management works. What are the challenges in risks? What are the where the I mean, how I measure the benefit of a risk model, uh, and from where we get data, what type of data, what the data means, etc. So there, so these understanding of a typical business, or you say you are in a FMCG sales, so how the sales network works, uh, how the dealer, distributor, retailer uh, hierarchy works, how the primary data, secondary data, what is the relation between them. So these things are very important. So for any business you are in, the consultant must be knowledgeable about the business. So that's a primary skill, I believe. The second, after that, the skill comes is that, of course, some level of theoretical knowledge, because you will be kind of interpreting or liaisoning between all the stakeholders. So you have to work with the data custodians of the data. So you need to understand from where the data comes, what type of data is coming, what type of data you are giving back to the production or to the enterprise. So some knowledge of the data process or the data pipeline, as we say, is useful. Similarly, because you will be ultimately interpreting those models, level of knowledge in the statistical algorithms or econometric algorithms or machine learning algorithms would be useful. But you need not know all the algorithms, only the algorithms that being used currently your data science team is building. uh, you should have enough knowledge of those models. You may not need to go to the very deep statistics, but how this works is definitely need to know. uh, so, and the third is that, your role would be mostly rolling out the solution. So how you are going to roll out the solution across different stakeholders? How do you, so what are the challenges? So these are nothing much to do with technology, but more of a change management process. So this is also a very important skill that the person or the consultant should have, is like, how do you manage uh, a change, how do you manage a rollover in a rollout of a solution, new solution in an enterprise? How do you manage the uh, change that is happening or occurring through the organization? These are the skills that those are, uh, I think, more important. But to me, the most important is that how much you have the how deep you have the understanding of the business would make I mean, will define the degree of success you will have as a consultant in the analytics role.
I think you've touched upon something very important, which is precisely change management. Of course, the relationship management is one of them. So while Jindal Global Business School was curating the curriculum, we did lay a lot of emphasis on leadership skills. So there's the separate leg, which is called LS, which is engaged learning for leadership and influencing skills. And one of the module is precisely on leading transitions, where we talk about cultural changes, changes in the roles, changes in people, etc. So I think you've just gave us a food for thought there that it has been definitely a right decision for us. Now,
Of
coming
course.
to client management or customer relationship management, you just talk about supplier or vendor management. Trust and belief is something I believe is a very crucial part when it comes to consulting. Uh, what, according to you, is the importance of trust quotient with organizations in consulting roles, be it for growth, be it for the prevailing relationship that you yourself have relationships with 10 different organizations in Zevia. So I do believe that you can definitely give us an insightful learning out here for this question.
In our business, in the analytics data science area, trust is a very important factor, because all what we do is most of the time a black box to the business owners. If I'm talking about that, I'm building a mixed model regression here, very few people would understand who are running the business what it exactly is. So they have to trust us, and you have to infuse that trust on them. So trust is a very, very important part in our business. So, and this is very important that the person who is leading that engagement, so it could be from either of the three sides that earlier told. It could be the client side consultant, or it could be the partner like our side consultant, or it could be the third party consulting firms person. The trust has to be there, and that has to be demonstrated through certain metrics. You just cannot tell that, because I'm saying so and I have myself validated and you should trust it. It should not be like that. So every time what we do is that, uh, to build the trust, we give them some results or some sense of the return on investment that they are doing. So if I am implementing this model, I am getting, say, a 5% benefit. What I'm claiming, this is a claim, but how do you measure that claim? So rather than pure or theoretical knowledge, what we suggest, or we see that our consultants suggest, is that they create certain business metrics. It could be either you take a small market, run the program over there, and observe it for 2 months, and then see, and then establish that there is really a 5% or more than 5% gain on sales. Or if you build a fraud prediction model and you run it for 2 months and show that you are able to capture more frauds than earlier. So that's how you build trust. And the trust comes through the KPIs you develop, the KPIs you measure over time, and as a result of your implementation, and then you present it before the business. And that is where it is important that you also need to understand what business thinks is the right KPI. If business thinks that no, capturing the or identifying the frauds are not important to me, but identifying the fraud 7 days early are important to me, so you have to establish that KPI based on that 7 days metric. So understanding ROI, kind of benefit or any kind of result metrics through the through these KPIs are, I think, the best way to establish the trust. And the way, I mean, the practices that we have adopted in last several years in working, is that what we do is that we don't create these metrics after the project is over, or at the end of the project. We, at the beginning of the project, we define that, look, we are going to give you these benefits in terms of these factors. Are you okay on this? So that is how we ourselves set the goal, and any consultant should set those goals before the rollout or before even the starting of the project, and then establish that, okay, these goals that we have identified at the beginning of the project now giving this result. So that is how we believe that the trust can be created using in any analytics journey. So
Amazing, sir. Yeah, I must say that it's a lot about how you're able to tell people, how you're able to story tell, image build about yourself, brand yourself, so that people look at your work, people look at the kind of analysis you're giving, and that's what speaks there. I'm sure that as a consultant, you yourself must be wearing a lot of shoes every day and not a single shoe, because I see that it has a lot of dimensions in the kind of role and work that you do. Can you just give us a glimpse of one day in the life of a consultant in business analytics sector?
okay, let me think of something like when I used to work for one of these companies and playing a role of a consultant, where in one side I have my own team who are developing those solutions and crunching data and everything, and on the other hand we have our client who are a very evolved set of people and has been using analytics for say last 10 years, and how we are showing that we are providing a really beneficial solution to you. So how we would approach, or how a typical day would be in our case. So first is that we work with our own team who are building the data, crunching those numbers, and get those important reports out of that. And maybe we can create a dashboard out of this, help them to create a dashboard and take that dashboard. And then we wear our consulting hat and identify what are the benefits we can see in this solution and what are the challenges. Then we go back to the data science team who is building the solution and validate with them whether my understanding is correct, whether they have approached this solution in this way and these numbers are or these metrics are right in their sense. And we also at that time uh, talk to them to identify if there is any gap in the data, either the type of data, the elements of data, or the time frame of the data, anything, so that we know that if any challenges is coming, what could be the source of that. Then you also go back to the data engineering team, because I we cannot go and tell client that you have this gap in the data. So I have to validate with the data engineering team whether this data is really missing, really does not exist, or really difficult to get. So now we create all these like a package, like where I have the benefits, I have the challenges, and I know what are the gaps and how the gaps can be, can be bridged in later. Then that becomes my pitch to the business. Then I go back to the business and tell, look, this is the outcome from the analysis we have done. These are the benefits I'm seeing, but at the same time, I'm also seeing these challenges. And these challenges are primarily driven by these gaps in the data, or could be the problem in the methodology itself. And I have checked back with your enterprise data owners that this data really does not exist. We have to build this data in the future iterations. So this becomes my pitch. I go and sell that pitch to the business. So this is how you can say, not a day probably, but maybe a week of a consultant's life would be passed. And then also take back from the client, like what further benefits he is looking for, and then maybe identify more sources of data, then again circle back to the solutions team and start the iteration, another iteration of the solution. So no solution, at least I have not seen any solution in my career of 20 years which are developed in one go. Every solution actually requires 2, 3, 4 cycles. But this is how you learn step by step, bring all the stakeholders in the same page, take inputs from them, and then create the next plan for the next iterations. And that is the role of a consultant. That is the role the consultant must play. So this is, we
I
can say,
clearly see, yeah, I can clearly see that it has a lot to do with critical thinking. It has a lot to do with problem solving. I would have used the word decision making, but I would say quick decision making, because that's what creates a difference in this sector versus the other sectors. I also see that it has a lot of convincing included. It has a lot of relationship management included. So all in all, if somebody thinks of putting business analytics with management, I do think that this is a wonderful combination to work on to be ready for the jobs of the future, careers for the future. Uh, on that note, Mr. Anshuman, there are a couple of questions that we have over here from our viewers who are currently with us on YouTube Live. So
Mhm.
the first question over here is that why is it necessary to just go for a professional MBA degree? What if I want to build a consulting role only and only in one particular area, for example, in machine learning? Do I still need to go ahead with management degree or a certification can do?
Well, it's a choice of career. Uh, of course, you can build your own career just focusing on machine learning. But look, unlike any other IT job, we are part of the larger IT fraternity. But unlike any other IT job, analytics is a domain where you have to work very closely with business, where you have to actually be working on the strategies of business, that strategy that the business would be rolling out in next 6 months to 1 year to 3 years time. So that is the reason I always feel that understanding of the business is very important. And maybe after your first degree, you do some work, work for a few couple of years. But after that, if you really want to, make a dent in the business, you need to have a very good understanding of the business. And analytics is just not only about writing codes and crunching numbers. It's about creating a business solution. As we have been discussing, the like your critical thinking, leadership role, power to convince a lot of other people, and even some business finance, understanding how the benefit should be measured, how whatever you do, how this translates into dollar values are very important. So that is where, for a successful career, at some point of time, doing an MBA focused in any of the machine learning or data engineering or data visualization can be very beneficial.
Mhm. The next question that we have is are freshers thinking of curating a career in consultancy, especially when there is no previous experience associated? How do companies look at them?
I really do not know companies who take freshers and put them into consulting roles.
Mhm.
Could be a pretty much challenge, but maybe in some cases you see and you will be put into the team, and it is like learning consultancy while developing solutions. Uh, but to my knowledge, people who come out of college, fresh out of college, and they want to build a career in analytics, they work more of a developer or a data scientist or a data visualizer for some time before moving into the consulting,
Uh,
expecting that out of a BTech degree or MSc statistics degree, you will be put into a consulting role. That may not be the right expectation.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it is very important for somebody who's just starting off the career to understand that the industry is also looking forward to people who can offer a lot of solutions under one roof rather than moving from people to people. And over there, it all depends upon how we are shaping up our skill sets. Moving on to the next question that we have over here is I'm an engineer by background, and I am looking forward to a career in business analytics sector. If you are given the chance, sir, to choose somebody who has certifications from corporates like IBM versus somebody who is not having these certifications but maybe a good candidate, whom will you hire and why?
These certificates are like ornaments. It is good to have, but ultimately your taste would be when you are, put into the water of data and softwares. So a certificate, definitely we look for those certificate in a sense that just to have a sense that this person have gone through some of the technology discussions, maybe has done some hands-on work, etc. So definitely he gets a, you know a advantage. But companies like us, and not only us, I'm sure for any other companies, they will test they will not just go by your certificate, but they will taste your actual skill.
Mhm.
And this actual skill can be uh, can be acquired through this certification. But I know for lot of reason, lot of people I know that who never gone through this certificates. Like, think of our generation who started probably uh, kind of grown up with the analytics sector in India itself. We never heard of such certifications. We learned ourselves, figuring out some computer somewhere and some software somewhere, or we learned in the job. So certificates are good to have, but that cannot really be a door opener itself.
Right. And I think that's where, again, we must look at the larger goal of an organization who tends to hire freshers. In fact, with this program, I would tend to differ freshers because we are looking at participants who already have at least 2 to 3 years of experience and definitely have a technical background to enter into a
Yeah, the technical background is absolutely important for an analyst, because analytics, unlike any other part of the consulting, it's a real-time hands-on job. Every aspect of analytics, you have to play with data uh, and some kind of software or whatever, or programming language. So
absolutely.
without that, just a theoretical consulting may not work over here. It's not investment banking, where you can do only with Excel formulas.
That's right. The last question that we're going to pick for the day is it important to be a maths person and be very fond of mathematics and statistics, as most people say, if I am eyeing on a career in business analytics?
Well, you play with data. If you do not know, you're not comfortable with numbers, maths, yeah, at some point of time, it will be difficult. So I would not encourage that if you are really not, do not like mathematics or do not like, some kind of understanding of algorithm, this field may prove challenging to you.
Mhm.
See, it's not a general MBA. It's a specialized program, and the specialized program requires specialized skill areas.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Mr. Anshuman, before I move to the close of the session, one last message that you would like to give to our viewers.
Uh, if you really want to build your career in data science, data business analytics area, uh, start to work with data wherever it is available. There are a lot of data these days are available freely over internet. Uh, Work on the Kaggle or similar sites, solve those problems, solve in your own way, play with data, create dashboards, run algorithms on your way, try to interpret. These days, running an algorithm is not really a tough job. The real uh, challenge is to how you are interpreting the output of the algorithm.
Absolutely.
So try to do as much of that. Go to Kaggle, find out any of your uh, favorite subject, find out a question or a challenge over there, and try to solve yourself. And keep doing this. You will hone your skills like nothing.
Thank you
So
so much for this amazing and wonderful message. And I'm sure that the viewers over here who are with us and who will be viewing this video later too will definitely take this message strongly and will emphasize on shaping up your skills. I would just remark one thing that, a lot depends on our vision as to where we wish to see ourselves. Do we wish to see ourselves just struggling for better packages, or do we see ourselves getting into a role but ensuring that we have absolutely necessary skill sets or even add more add-ons to them? On that note, I would like to take a moment on behalf of Open Global University and Jindal Global Business School. I would like to extend wholehearted gratitude to Mr. Anshuman Bhattacharya, who took valuable time for this session out of his busy schedule and delivered such an insightful session. Believe me, sir, I am myself taking a lot of learnings back today for most of the things that even I was not aware of being into academic profession. We look forward to hosting you on campus, and we look forward to having more chat sessions with you in the future.
Sure, it has been a quite encouraging session for me too. I really love that interaction with you and all the other people here. And thank you very much for arranging this session.
Thank you, sir. Viewers, you may please log on to the website of JTBS and look forward to the information on 1 year full-time global MBA in business analytics offered by Jindal Global Business School with immersion with Wharton School at Pennsylvania. For more information on the upcoming masterclasses, please keep a tab on our LinkedIn and Facebook page. You are most welcome to have a visit on our campus and interact with our faculty to know more about this program. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Adieu.
Thank you. Goodbye.